I will be talking about second generation basal insulin, whether there are more similarities or there are some differences between them. Okay. So the overview of my topic will be as follows. So I first talking about the evolution of basal insulins, then I'll compare the initial differences that were there from the phase 3 trials, and then head-to-head comparison between the newer basal insulins. What was the need for this evolution of basal insulins? Then the evolution of basal insulin has come because we needed to prevent hypoglycemia. So why is hypoglycemia very important? Because tight glycemic control, we all know, is associated with the reduction in the complications of diabetes. With the reduction of complications in diabetes, the quality of life will increase and the health cost will decrease. But at the same time, when you control the blood glucose very tightly, the chances of hypoglycemia will increase. Now, once hypoglycemia goes up, the patient starts fearing hypoglycemia all the time. Inverse, the exact opposite thing will start occurring. His quality of life will start decreasing. His healthcare costs will start increasing. The medication adherence will start decreasing, and complications will actually increase. So the tight glycemic control has to be a good balance between controlling the blood glucose nicely, but without causing hypoglycemia. And therefore, the need for discovering newer and newer insulins, which cause lesser and lesser hypoglycemia, was important. Achieving the right balance with basal insulin, now most people are saying that you should initiate insulin with basal insulin. After the Glargine U100 came in the early 2000s, most of the guidelines have now said that you should initiate insulin with basal insulin. Only RSSDI says that we can start with premix, but all the other guidelines all over the world say that you should start only with basal insulin. How does the basal insulin development program come? So we know that from the year 1946 to the late 1990s, we had NPH insulin. Now, NPH insulin is a wonderful insulin because you take the insulin at, say, 10 p.m. in the night, the early morning fasting blood glucose gets controlled very well. It's a relatively inexpensive insulin. So we still use NPH in our day-to-day practice. But we know that NPH, it starts working only after 2 to 3 hours, and there is a peak in the middle of its action. Around 5 to 6 hours after NPH is injected, there is a peak in the insulin, which may cause the midnight hypoglycemias. Glargine 100 has been studied extensively in the late 90s, and in India, we've been using it since the early 2000s. We now know that was a significant advancement over the NPH insulin because it was relatively peakless insulin. That means you used to take Glargine at one time of the night. The whole day it will continue to work with a very small peak only in the middle of the day. Insulin Detimer was almost similar to insulin Glargine, but after that, there have been further leaps and bounds. Insulin Degludec and Glargine 300 came into the market. These are truly basal insulins. They are peakless insulins and they act for very long periods of time. So today we will be concentrating mainly on the second generation basal insulin analogs, that is insulin Degludec and Glargine 300. So Glargine 300, how does it work? So we know that Glargine is per se present in the injection at a low pH, pH of 4. Once it is given in the subcutaneous tissue, it precipitates amorphously and creates a subcutaneous depot. And from there, the slowly releasing of the active metabolite occurs. The 21A glycine human insulin slowly gets released into the circulation over a period of 24 hours or more. The insulin Degludec has a little different mode of action. Once it enters the subcutaneous tissue, it binds strongly but reversibly to albumin via its fatty acid tight chain, and it results to a plasma protein binding of more than 99%, from which slowly insulin monomers are released. The Glargine 300 mainly differs from Glargine 100 because of its compact size. So if there is a smaller volume and there is a more compact subcutaneous depot with a smaller surface area, there is a more gradual and slower release from the depot surface that occurs as far as Glargine 300 is concerned. How do you compare the two new basal insulins? So is Glargine U300 and Degludec same? That's what we are here to discuss about today. If you look at the initial trials, okay, the initial trials were the phase 3 trials. The begin trials were mainly for Degludec, and the addition trials were mainly for Glargine 300. What was seen as far as HbA1c control was concerned, there was a better HbA1c reduction with Glargine 100 as far as insulin Degludec was concerned. Whereas in the Glargine 300 studies, there was a similar HbA1c reduction between the two long-acting insulins. So HbA1c reduction was a little bit better with glargine 300, but as I said, it's not a good thing to actually compare the phase 3 trials with each other. They are not designed to be compared with each other. But this is a little bit of a take-home message that in the phase 3 trials, glargine 300, it was similar to glargine 100, whereas degludec was a little inferior to glargine 100. What about the hypoglycemia aspect? If you compare the two phase 3 trial programs, the glargine 300 has a lower rate of anytime hypoglycemia as well as nocturnal hypoglycemia. Whereas the degludec, it reduced the rates of nocturnal hypoglycemia only. The differences are quite subtle, but because the topic is for comparison between both of them, I had to project this slide. The differences are quite subtle. Glargine reduces the lower rate. It causes lower rate of anytime and nocturnal hypoglycemia, whereas degludec causes a lower rate of nocturnal hypoglycemia only. Now, this is an interesting study. It was the insulin clamp study to see what is the variability in the glucose control once the glargine 300 and IDEC is given. So in this particular study, it was shown very clearly that there was a 20% lesser within day variability with glargine 300 as compared to IDEC 100. Glargine 300 in this particular study seemed to be a more flat insulin as compared to degludec. Yet another study which is projected in the Novo slides is IDEC 200 versus glargine 300, where IDEC 200 was clearly superior to glargine 300 in this particular study. But one thing has to be noted that IDEC 200 is not yet approved in India. So it has to be taken with a pinch of salt. However, it's also good to know that insulin degludec also does not cause that much of glycemic variability. Now, these are the new slides that have been coming up. It's called as the DELIVER-NAVE study. That means this is a real world evidence study where they have compared glargine and degludec in the real world. What is very heartening to know in this particular study is both of them help in good reduction of HbA1c, and the achievement of HbA1c goal less than 7% is equal in both the groups. That means glargine 300 and IDEC in real world, as far as HbA1c control is concerned, is equal, and they are both good. So where have we got now comparing the new basal insulins? As I said, in the PK/PD in type 1 diabetes in the insulin clamp studies, glargine 300 was better than IDEC 100 in one particular study, and IDEC 200 was a little bit better with glargine 300, whereas IDEC 200, as I said, is not approved in India. Trial level meta-analysis, as we said, is not supposed to be compared with each other, but glargine 300 was showing equal glycemic control as far as glargine 100 was concerned, whereas IDEC was not showing as much as glycemic control as far as glargine 100 was concerned. In the real world evidence, head-to-head DELIVER-D study shows that there is a comparable HbA1c control with both the long-acting basal insulins. Is there any head-to-head clinical trial which is on efficacy and safety between the two insulins? In fact, there is not one, but there are two large studies. They are called as the BRIGHT study, which compared glargine 300 with IDEC 100, and the glargine 300 versus IDEC 200 was the CONCLUDE study. They both are not very similar studies, so I'll just take you through the studies. The first one is the BRIGHT study. The BRIGHT study is a multi-center, open-label, 1:1 randomized study. It is a non-inferiority study. So basically, the study designers, they wanted to see whether glargine 300 was non-inferior to degludec. That was the major study, that what we needed to study, major outcome that was being studied here. These were mainly insulin naive patients. Nobody was using insulin in this particular study when they have entered in the study. After they have been randomized, they have been given either glargine 300 with a starting dose of 0.2 units per kilogram as per the label, or they were given degludec 100 as per the label. They started with 10 units per day. Okay, the titration phase was divided into two parts. There was something called as an initial active titration, which took place for the first 12 weeks. And then there is a late maintenance titration that begins between 13 to 24 weeks. This is more or less correlating with our clinical practice, where the patient keeps emailing, SMSing, or coming to the clinic very often in the first 12 weeks for the insulin titration. Whereas in the late maintenance titration, the patient herself knows, once the stability is achieved, the patient herself knows how to do it. The study, as far as its primary outcome was concerned, has met this thing. So non-inferiority of Glargine 300 was proven versus IDEC 100 in HbA1c reduction. Both the molecules helped in reducing the HbA1c nicely and smoothly. And the percentage of people who achieved an HbA1c of 7 was high in both the groups. In fact, the average HbA1c after 24 weeks, either with using Glargine 300 or with IDEC 100, was same, 7%. Both of them achieved 7%. So this was the primary objective. It was met. So once the primary objective is met, you can go for certain secondary analysis. They try to compare the differences between the hypoglycemia between the Glargine U300 and Degludec. What they found out that in the titration phase, the active titration phase, in the first 3 weeks, in the first 3 months, sorry, in the first 12 weeks, they found out that the incidence of confirmed hypoglycemia less than 70 milligram per deciliter and the incidence of confirmed hypoglycemia less than 54 milligram per deciliter was significantly lower in patients who are using Glargine 300 as compared to Degludec. Even the event rates, that is the number of hypoglycemic episodes per year, was significantly lower with Glargine 300 as compared to insulin Degludec 100 in the active titration phase. They wanted to study what happens to the nocturnal hypoglycemia, and after a lot of statistical analysis, they found out that as far as the event rates of confirmed nocturnal hypoglycemia less than 70 milligram per deciliter was concerned, Glargine 300 was faring better than Degludec. This is a slide just to summarize what were the superior findings as far as hypoglycemia was concerned with Glargine 300 versus IDEC 100. The incidence of anytime hypoglycemia less than 70 or anytime hypoglycemia less than 54 was significantly lesser with Glargine 300. The event rates were significantly lesser for anytime hypoglycemia. And as far as nocturnal confirmed hypoglycemia less than 70 milligram per deciliter was concerned, it was 35% less with Glargine 300 in the initial titration phase. So the authors concluded that this is an important difference because the early hypoglycemic events during titration are associated with increased treatment discontinuation as well as long-term risk of hypoglycemia. And therefore, Glargine 300 may offer an advantage in hypoglycemia risk reduction versus IDEC 100. Conclude study. Now, Conclude study is a totally different study. It cannot be used as a competitor study to the BRIGHT study. The Conclude study was a study which was done in patients who are already on basal insulin plus OADs, and they have a very high hypoglycemia risk. So these patients were either given Glargine 300 dose as per label, or they were started with Degludec with around 20% reduction from the pre-trial dose. The problem, this was a very well-designed study. The problem was with the defective glucometer. So there was a defective glucometer, and therefore divided the study into 3 parts: titration, maintenance 1, maintenance 2. And the defective glucometer played a little bit of havoc in the titration period. There might be over-reporting of hypoglycemias because of the defective glucometer. In the maintenance phase also, there was a mixed use of defective and new glucose meters. So how the results of the study can really be extrapolated with the use of faulty glucometers for the first half, we don't know. Nevertheless, the Novo Nordisk has sponsored this study and they continued doing it. That itself was a significant achievement as far as they were concerned. It was mainly designed to test superiority of IDEC 200 over Glargine 100. So this is not a non-inferiority study, it's a superiority trial. What they found out was, when it came to the primary outcome, they wanted to see superiority of Degludec in controlling the overall symptomatic hypoglycemia over Glargine. The primary outcome was not met. They did certain secondary analysis like nocturnal symptomatic hypoglycemia, severe hypoglycemic anemia. So it is good to know that these hypoglycemias were a little bit better in the use of Degludec, but the differences not be used in this particular study to have any statistical significance because the primary outcome itself was not met. So secondary analysis ideally should not be done, although it's just good to know that it causes lesser hypoglycemia in such group of patients. So if you have to check the BRIGHT study versus Conclude study, the BRIGHT study was perhaps more in vogue with the patients that we usually initiate insulin with. We start insulin in a patient who has never been using insulin before, a person who's been using more amount of sulfonylureas, which is the second most common prescribed drug after metformin in India. Whereas in conclude study, this was taken with high risk group of patients who were already taking basal insulins, and then they were started on insulin degludec and found out to have a little better result as far as the glargine U300 is concerned. So BRIGHT trial, it still remains the only head-to-head randomized control trial which met its primary objective, comparing the efficacy and safety of the two second-generation basal insulin analogs. There are certain comparisons between the two long-acting insulins if you do a sub-analysis in the BRIGHT study as well. So although the numbers are less, they did a subgroup analysis based on the EGFR values. EGFR greater than 90, less than 60 to 90, and less than 60. So if you see the less than 60 group, when the EGFR is low, it's clearly seen that the glargine 300 seems to work better than the insulin degludec. This may be related to the fact that degludec requires albumin for binding and action, and albumin naturally, when the EGFR goes low, there is definite problems with the albumin hemodynamics. In patients with hypoalbuminemia itself, glargine 300 and IDEG was studied, and this is without any surprise that insulin glargine was doing better as far as IDEG was concerned, because degludec mainly binds to albumin as its main mechanism of action. The mean percentage of time in patients with hypoglycemia and the mean percentage of time with clinically important hypoglycemia, that's less than 54 milligram per deciliter, and nocturnal hypoglycemia was significantly better with glargine 300 as compared to IDEG in patients with hypoalbuminemia. This is the time in range study. So this is a CGMS based study where the patients were crossed over from one group to another group. It's a small study. Okay, so there were only 30 patients in this particular study, and what was seen was that the time in range spent with insulin glargine was better. The number of hypoglycemic episodes in the CGMS study were much lesser with glargine 300, whether it is anytime hypoglycemia, nocturnal hypoglycemia, severe hypoglycemia. The amount of time that the person spent with such low sugars were better with glargine 300. Another study has just come up. It is comparing the nocturnal hypoglycemia with glargine 300 to IDEG. Again, this is a flash glucose monitoring based study. It seems that in this particular study, glargine 300 was far superior to degludec as far as controlling the nocturnal hypoglycemia was concerned. So I would like to summarize and stop my presentation here by saying that insulin treatment, it should aim at a balance between glycemic control and hypoglycemia. The basal insulin, as we all know, is now endorsed by all the global guidelines to be the most convenient insulin to start therapy. And among the basal insulins, we now have newer basal insulins like insulin glargine 300 and insulin degludec. They have better safety profile than other insulins. If you have to compare between glargine 300 and degludec, then there have been two studies, the BRIGHT study and the conclude study. The BRIGHT study was a much better conducted study. It managed to achieve its primary endpoint, and then secondary endpoint analysis showed that there was less hypoglycemia during the initial active titration phase, be it anytime hypoglycemia or nocturnal hypoglycemia. The conclude trial, well, the sponsors, they tried to do a good trial, but there was hampered with a glucometer related problem, and it failed to reach its primary objective. There were some BRIGHT study sub-analysis had been done, which further shows the benefits of glargine 300 versus IDEG 100 in high-risk populations, such as patients with hypoalbuminemia and patients with renal failure. So with that, I think I'll conclude my talk and then hand it over back to the organizers.